Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is our review of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the new A24 movie that has been sweeping the nation and sweeping film Twitter specifically, because I feel like everyone has been talking about this movie on the film tweet side. I am here with the crew, obviously, with RB3 and Sabrina. We've all seen this movie. I was the last one to see it. I just walked out of the theater just a little bit ago, got the chance to check this one out. But I want to dive into this one because it's been really hyped. It has been really hyped, and I really want to discuss everything that we can about this movie. But before we do, we have to talk about a general discussion in the movie. So RB3, I want to start with you. What were your thoughts before you went into the movie? Did you hear anything about it before? And what did you think after you saw it? Did it live up to the hype that you think that you saw?
Well, yeah, I mean, going into the movie, I had seen the Daniels' previous film, Swiss Army Man, which I was a big fan of. I thought it was a really heartwarming movie. I saw it in theaters when it first came out. And then I also, they showed the trailer a lot whenever I went to AMC. Specifically when we went to the artisan movies. By the way, AMC, y'all dirty for putting the Batman in the artisan film category. That's sick. That's sickness. Y'all should never do that again. Hope we never see another $200 million CGI fest in the artisan film category. That's disgusting. Anyway, this movie definitely lived up to the title of being an artisan film because I also saw it in AMC. And this is by far my favorite movie of the year. This is probably one of my favorite movies I've seen in a long time. I think especially in a year like 2021 where I wasn't like particularly impressed by like a lot of stuff. Besides Dune and besides Don't Look Up, because I'm one of the stupid idiots that love Don't Look Up. But I also really love this one. I mean, it felt like the most pure imaginative cinema that we've seen in a long time that has like a really big heart, a really bold message, and tells a story that's wholly unique and different. So I really loved Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
How about you, Sabrina?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as RB3. I really loved Swiss Army Man. I thought that one was so interesting and unique. And then going into this one, obviously there was a ton of hype on Twitter prior to the release, but I didn't watch any trailers. I didn't read anything about it. I knew nothing going into it, which is how I like to go see movies. I always make a joke that like the reason why I'm always late to movies is because I want to miss the trailers, but it's actually just because I end up being on time. But I hate sitting through trailers. So I was really fortunate just to be able to sit down and and just to like take this in for the first time, especially seeing something with a cast that was absolutely incredible. And I was not even some of the side characters like Jamie Lee Curtis and Jenny Slate. I had no idea until I saw them in the film that they were in this movie. Honestly, Michelle Yeoh was like the only person that I had known was in this, but I was absolutely blown away. This took me on a journey that I didn't know exactly what was going to happen next at every single turn, but the amount of heart and just like warmth, love, like depth that is in this super, super original multiverse story. Like, I just thought it was so special.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild movie. I really enjoyed it as well. I definitely feel like the performances are by far some of the best performances I've seen in a while. Really, I feel like, I know obviously we're going to be all over the place in this conversation, but the daughter, I thought she was incredible. Obviously, Michelle Yeoh, she carried the entire movie on her back and she did an amazing performance. But Stephanie Hsu, who plays the daughter, Joy, throughout the movie and the villain throughout the movie, I thought she was incredible. Just all the parts that she had to play as well as Michelle Yeoh, because obviously Michelle Yeoh is the centerpiece of this film. But I felt like the daughter in this movie really stood out quite a bit. But yeah, what's interesting about A24 movies is that there's always a level of some hype going in. There's always a level of what do we expect that we're going to see? And seeing how this one kind of blew the other ones out of the water, in my opinion, as far as conversation drivers, as far as films that are trying to push the envelope a little bit more. Do you feel like this one is going to be one that's going to last throughout the year as a standout for you, RB3? Or do you feel like there might be other maybe A24 gems or indie gems that might stand out a little bit more?
Well, I think thankfully, like, so far, I think this year is going to have a really good return to like really good cinema. So there are a lot of movies that I'm looking forward to it this year, like Jordan Peele's Nope, and Ari Aster has a movie coming out later this year. Also, Men from Alex
Alex
Garland.
Garland.
So there's a lot of exciting movies that has the potential to top this movie for sure. But I don't see this, like, I see this really holding up. Like, this is something that has a lot of for me, it holds up for me in terms of what I like about it, because for me personally, I cried like twice in this movie, two different points. So I think it had a real emotional impact for me. I'm enthusiastic to see it again. I think it had that impact for a lot of people, even people at work who I talk to and watch movies. I think it has almost like a normie level of impact and kind of relevance to, not normie like per se, but I think like people outside of like the A24 Avengers like we are really enjoying this movie to like a much different level than I think a lot of other movies are. So
Do you agree with that, Sabrina? Do you feel like this one is like one that general movie audiences can enjoy? People who
I
watch
think
Marvel movies?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't want to say just people that watch Marvel movies, but this is something where I could have brought like my old roommates, like Eliza and Mackenzie, family members, my sister. I highly recommended it to everybody because I do think, even though this is such a unique and specific story, and it does highlight this family that moved countries to America, and also the daughter, like you mentioned, Stephanie Shu, chef's kiss, incredible performance, but being like a queer first generation American is something that I personally really, really relate to. And I think even outside of that, everybody can find bits and pieces within this story to really grasp onto, even if this isn't your specific experience in life or your experience growing up. I think just the story of like, all of us have had doubts of, where am I going in life? Am I in the right place? What if I made this one decision? Would my life be any different? If I didn't move to Los Angeles when I was 18, where would I be? But then, we get moments and bits and pieces in the film that are a comfort, where it's like you are in the place that you are needed to be, and you are with the people that you need to be surrounded by. And every hardship and every single thing that you face and every choice that you make does have an impact, big or small. And so I think every single person on this earth can relate to that truly. So Marvel fans, A24 fans, casual movie going audiences, people that haven't seen a movie in years, I feel like this could be a drawback to cinema.
RB3, how do you feel about the themes in this film as far as what they're communicating and how they communicate it with the different styles and multiverses that they jump into?
Well, like Sabrina said, these are themes that are like universal. You know what I mean? Everybody has regrets in life. Everybody has like, those kind of moments where you look back and, as a lot of other like sci-fi movies kind of prioritize like, mythology or special effects and all that. Like this movie kind of really throws all of that to the side, and almost quite literally, there's multiple times where characters say there are no rules, just purely to focus on the emotional through line and heart that's like present throughout the entire film. And I think like, to me, that shows like the power of intentional cinema, of it seems like every single decision and plot point was like well thought out, super specific. Every single shot was meticulous. Like it felt like hyper energetic in the way of like, it felt very hyper energetic in the sense of like the way Edgar Wright films are, or a lot of other big splashy stylistic filmmakers, but it also possesses like the very true and tried heart of any other kind of human story that you'll see out there, whether that's just a quiet melodrama or a comedy or something. But it gives you that within the context of like this big science fiction, like fantasy action thing, which I think the action parts of it are very well done. I think it's even I think right now in action cinema we kind of live in this era of like these kind of like long takes, kind of boring, not boring, but like the camera's really far away, like very emphasizing of like, oh, we're seeing all the stunts, everything like physically, which is cool sometimes. But you watch a movie like The Northman and it kind of comes off a little boring. But when you watch a movie like this, it's like, oh, they're cutting to every shot. The violence has like a specific energy to it. Like it feels like unique and different. And I really dig it that way. So.
And the choreography on top of it, with all those elements, the choreography was like incredible, so engaging, spot on. You never have a moment that you feel lost in all of the action that's happening on screen. You are really focused in on what you need to in that moment. And I think that's really essential.
Yeah, I feel like that's another piece that I feel really helps the film. It helps it because, especially after watching a couple other movies this weekend, it's interesting how you always need a little bit of an enticing factor inside a movie, whether it is a heartfelt A24 film, it still has really well shot and well choreographed action scenes. To the point that I didn't even know the Russos were producers of this film. I don't know if you guys saw that at the final card.
Yeah.
And the Roosters obviously love their action. But the guy who played one of the assassins in Shang-Chi is in this film. And I've noticed his choreography was sprinkled throughout it because he's been coordinating a couple fight scenes for years in Hollywood. But recently he's been on the come up. It's the homie with the two sticks. Um, I don't know if you guys know which character I'm talking about, but that guy, the short little guy with the two sticks, who was fighting Michelle Yeoh in The Office, he was in Shang-Chi and he played one of the major characters in that film as well. And I felt like that was a major standout because it felt kind of like a throwback to comedy sprinkled with action, sprinkled and then coming together, right? Where it's very much like Jackie Chan-ish style of choreography, which it helped kind of the comedic effect really go down. I don't know. I thought it worked out really well. What did you think of that fusion, Sabrina?
I think it was really genuinely great. And I also loved that entire idea about this. Because I went back and I did watch the original trailer. And like I'm really happy that I went into this without knowing anything, because even the way that all of them are able to fight and choreograph is so unique. Even Michelle Yeoh, in every single moment that she has an action scene, she's in a different type of kind of like perspective. Basically, I don't want to like give away too much right now, but she's in a different place. So the fight style is constantly changing. And that's what I think keeps it really engaging as well. So them really taking that kind of creative liberty with this, and then also not being too serious about all the rules. Like I believe RB3 mentioned earlier, saying like, there are no rules. So you just kind of vibe with this. Like that's the only word that I can really use that kind of shows this. Like they're steering the wheel and we're just there for the ride. And so all of that worked super, super well for me.
And you know, I think what's interesting is like you said, like they went to those different perspectives and showed like those different fights, and there are a lot of different. You know, they show that in some other movies. You know, like the example I think of is like Limitless, right? But then like in Limitless, like or like in other movies, they don't show you like the full perspective of the rest of that storyline, right? They don't show you the perspective of like what goes on from the rest of that person, or from, you know, like I love the fact that even though we got the fact that she, you know, learned karate from being like an action movie star, we still see like that disillusionment with her husband and that fantasy play out all the way. So when we get that ending at the end, we get like this big crescendo moment of like 8 or 9 different like intertwined storylines like all coming to a head. It just feels really, really impactful.
Yeah, it really did. And obviously they all come together really well. But speaking of that, let's get into a little bit of more specifics. What was your guys's favorite Michelle Yeoh universe? Whether it's comedic or one you would want to live in or one that you would want to have as far as a power.
The Rock
Which
universe.
one?
Got to be the Rock universe.
No, that's the most depressing
I
one.
literally just want to be, no, that's actually kind of a nice life. You don't have to do
It's true.
taxes. You don't
That's
have to
true.
like, you don't have to do any of that. You're just sitting there as a rock. It's a beautiful view.
That's true.
So I like that one, RB3. I think the two that really stood out to me, first of all, the hot dog fingers I thought was genuinely hilarious. And I also loved the
Yeah.
relationship with Jamie Lee Curtis's character in that one, when they're playing piano with like their feet.
Yeah.
It's just insane to me how we can go from some of the most heartbreaking scenes in the world and then cut to this and be like laughing while we're still crying. I think that is a super, super powerful thing. And that's how you know you're in the hands of a very like meticulous filmmaker and filmmakers. So that one. And then also I did like that we saw a lot of like real life footage of Michelle Yeoh, like at the Crazy Rich Asians premiere and stuff like that for the Hollywood or the actress one. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I obviously RB3. I guess you're sticking with the Rock universe, but there's definitely a lot of standouts. It's interesting how ridiculous the hot dog hands universe is when you first see it, and then the more they play out, the more you're just like, Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just have hot dogs for hands. But the way they kept playing it up for comedic effect when it came to the strong conversations they were having still felt so hysterical. The way that Jamie Lee Curtis was just waving her hands, just like, I'm telling you, this is really serious. And it was just like flopping everywhere. I thought that was hysterical. The one that got me, obviously, I think it might have gotten you guys too. I don't know. But the Rakakuni universe
Oh
Oh
yeah.
my
with the
God.
chef was the one
Yes.
that killed me. And it literally like made me want to see that movie too. Can I see what happens to Rakakuni? Does he escape? Can we save him, please? Because we never get an actual completed arc at that finale, but that one got me good.
We never saw the pinatas one all the way through either. We never saw
Oh
the
yeah.
pinatas all the way through. I want to see more of that for sure.
But it was really cool because we got to see a lot of creativity on the screen, mainly through the character of Joy. Uh, Creativity in the sense not only in a visual sense with her wardrobe, her style, her makeup, but also in a sense of her personality and how sporadic and chaotic it was, and how she would go from crying to laughing to screaming to doing martial arts move. Like she was a very crazy, sporadic character, and it was very colorful, purposefully colorful inside that character. And I love how Michelle Yeoh's motherly character blamed that persona on her daughter being so weird in her eyes and so counterculture in her perspective, and not going with the flow of the same Chinese, historical first generation kind of vibe. And I thought that was a really cool way to describe the disconnect between parents, where they can kind of blame it on some weird thing that's coming over my daughter. This is just some weird thing that I just got to pull her out of it, even though that's really what it was a part of her the whole time. How'd you guys feel about the mother-daughter aspect of the whole film?
Yo, nobody warned me. They're like, yo, if you got mommy issues, like do not like proceed with caution. But I really do think they handled it so beautifully. I mean, when we see them at the opening of the film, their relationship, and you can get that sense. And I feel like there a lot of times, just because of like generationally or a bunch of different aspects, like there is this type of like gap in the way that we see the world versus our parents. And so like when we do get to the moment with Stephanie Shu's character, and she's like, yeah, like I've been in this body through every single moment, like the good ones, the bad ones, I felt every single heartbreak. Like it just highlights just that like emotional weight. And I feel like that toll that a lot of times like children, parents themselves from their parents, that generational weight of just like pressure and like the want to have your kids have a better life than you, want them to succeed, so you go so far as to like craft the life that you want them to lead. And there comes a time where you have to understand like they're going to do what's best for them, and we feel that all throughout this, like they are going to do what makes them happy. And like you're overcompensating for crafting this life for your daughter when you're not even content. Your relationship is in shambles with your husband. He's literally asking for a divorce. And so like overcompensating all this loss that you feel in your own life to pressure on your kid. I think the way that they handled that within this film was just absolutely beautiful, incredible. And like with Michelle Yeoh's character, even though she did kind of have this like distance and this kind of coldness to her family, you could tell she still did really care about every single one of them. So even in the bad moments, I wanted to be like, no, like wake up and realize, which is exactly what she did. So I never rooted against her. I just rooted for her to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think especially when, I think like especially when it's a studio like A24 that's given us movies like Lady Bird, Moonlight, and Hereditary. Mommy issues are going to be like a constant part of it, right? And I think that and I think what is really good about this movie is like you're right, Sabrina. It shows that the mom isn't necessarily like the most right. Like she is very flawed in her approach of like dealing with her daughter, and that is affecting her daughter in more negative ways. And I think on the other end, when we see like that Bego, like the imagery that the daughter's presenting, which is really like a giant metaphor for like depression and things of that nature, it just goes to show what parentage and narcissistic parenting could like do to can have an effect on a child, and how that could, how that can burn a relationship in a way that can personally affect both the daughter's life and her ability to not be open, to not be fully expressive, and to feel depressed, and the mother's life, like you said, Sabrina, and getting a divorce in her marriage.
Yeah, I also feel like the whole relationship angle, it felt like Michelle Yeoh's character never, Evelyn, I'll call her Evelyn. Evelyn never really fully accepted her daughter having, I think her name was Becky, right? Was it Becky?
I think so. I think it was Becky.
Having Becky in her
The
life.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
The girlfriend was Becky.
Never really fully accepted her. Almost kind of always almost telling herself in her mind that she was a very good friend. I almost feel like that was her telling herself. And obviously at that final scene, when she talks to her father and talks about the different generations, but accepting that this is who Becky is to my daughter. And it's perfect because my daughter comes from the same spirit that I have, that fiery fighter spirit. And Becky has that counter to that. So it equals out very well, very much yin and yang in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene. I thought it was beautiful. It really made me feel like, I don't know, it made me feel like that relationship could work out. I was rooting for Becky and Joy.
I genuinely have chills like talking about all of these moments. I cannot wait to like watch this movie again. But even like talking about Evelyn and like her growing up, the bits and pieces that we got of that, the moment that also just like made me laugh, but it also is like really sad. It's like, oh, sorry, like you have a girl. When Evelyn is born, like that announcement, like, oh, sorry, it's a girl. Like, here you go. And so it just all kind of starts and builds and continues. It's like a snowball effect between every single generation, where it's like, no matter what anybody does at any time, like our kids and our kids' kids, there will always be expectations. If people are going to fall short of them, or people are going to pave their own way, there's going to be times where people disappoint you or make a decision that you don't necessarily agree with. And it can hurt when you have their best intentions in mind. But it's like I said earlier about like, you have to let them pave their own way in life and like make their own mistakes and have their own happiness, which is what Stephanie Shu's character has with Becky. And it's so beautifully displayed on the screen.
Yeah, I love that relationship. But speaking of funny, just the last chance, any final scene that really just did it for you as far as comedic effect that made you laugh out loud. There's a lot of moments in this movie, so if you have one, go ahead and jump in. If you don't, I'll jump in. To me, the fight scene obviously was funny between the two guys, but when that homie, the security guard, jumps out of nowhere, completely pantsless, in a sitting pose, like fly in midair, just ready to sit on that thing. I was like, yo, I died laughing throughout that scene. That guy gave it his all. He was committed to the cause. That's a 20-foot drop.
You got to do what you got to do. At that point, we've seen like ridiculous things, like tell somebody that you love them and like all of this type of stuff. But like that was definitely taking it to like the next level. That was hilarious.
Top tier. Yeah.
And again, the fact that this scene is in a movie like this and all of it works together so well, even with this huge idea, huge original concept, like I cannot even say like how entertaining all of this is. But for me, going back to the chef, I think one of the last moments that him and Evelyn have together, and like they get on each other's shoulders and stuff like that, and they're chasing after them. I find that to be so funny, especially because I was a huge Glee fan when I was a kid.
Yes.
And that actor was in
Me
Glee.
Too.
Yeah.
Harry Shum. I've known that guy for years. Yes.
Yeah. I think he is so funny in everything that he is in. So he's fantastic. It's always like such a joy to see him on screen. So that was a highlight for sure.
I will never forget that homie dancing in the background.
Always the best
Glee.
one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely recognized him. As soon as I saw him, I was like, damn, there he is, man.
Yeah.
Doing it again. Love that guy. But yeah, any final closing thoughts, RB3, on Everything Everywhere All at Once?
I think just all the scenes with the husband were just like absolutely hilarious to me. Yeah. Especially when he kept putting the googly eyes on stuff in the beginning, like that was just really funny. And then that paying off towards the end. I don't know. It was all good. It was all good stuff. So
yeah, there's obviously a lot of great moments. One thing that we didn't really touch on that's really cool about this film is the way they are able to jump locations and jump scenery and jump almost even genres with the style that they were shooting. The cameras changed. I love the Hollywood kung fu one. Always had kind of this motion blur, slow motion background thing throughout it. Every time they cut to that one, each one had their own style, not just of setting, but almost of the way they shot it. I thought that was really creative and interesting. There was just some really cool stuff in there that I just thought was really well executed and well done and well thought out, and not just kind of thrown in there with some, crazy CGI. They really, took the time to create each one of those scenes, even if it was for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and for an independent movie, I don't know what the budget for this is, but it looked really good. It must have been like at least $20 million, I assume. Yeah. But it looked really, really good, and big props from it looking like a big budget movie on such type, strengths.
100%. Alrighty, guys, that is our review on Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Also, make sure you guys subscribe right here on First Cut for more videos and more reviews that we're going to be coming all throughout the week, and our past reviews that we've done already. But where can everyone find you guys? I'll start with you, Sabrina.
You can find me watching this movie again and again and again and recommending it to every single person I know, but also on Twitter and Instagram at Sabrina X Monica, also on Twitter at Sabrina on Film.
RB3.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3 and at Timestamp Movie.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Mr. What is it? Sci-Fi Film Festival, man.
Yeah, Pan African Film Festival this week.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, Miami.
Taking over.
Pan African Film Festival. If you're in LA this Wednesday, come out and support Pan African Film Festival. DM me if you need, some information.
There you go. You can follow me at Squad Leader Race and follow us at First Cut TMO. Make sure you guys do all that. But either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, we're going to be peacing out. So peace.